final division that we're going to have a look at in the Scotia Series competitions is the Maritime Bred class. This is for horses, mares, geldings, and stallions that are bred in the Maritimes and have papers that they can prove the breeding. Horses in the Maritime Bred competition can be shown either in English or Western tack. They are judged 40% on their performance and 60% on conformation. These horses are going to be shown on the rail, walk, trot or jog, canter or lope, both directions of the ring. For the rail portion, you're judging them on their manners and their way of going for their breed and for their type and their sport. So you need to have a bit of a broad image in your mind of what it is that you're looking for. You're looking at soundness, correctness of movement, temperament, as well as other indications of health and well-being, like breathing, fitness, this sort of thing. So once you've finished the rail work, the horses will be stripped for their conformation evaluation. And for this, the announcer will let the grooms that should be waiting be notified that they can come into the ring. The riders will dismount. Saddles will be removed. Typically, the horses keep their bridles on. It is possible that you may see the Western horses with their bridles removed and halters put on. The groom will likely also give the horse a quick brush off to tidy it up if there's any marks from the saddle. And at this point in time, you're going to have the horses lined up, typically nose to tail. And once we start talking about the conformation assessment, you'll understand why this is. But normally what you'll do is you'll place your top horses towards the front of the ring, your bottom horses towards the back of the ring, depending on space. If it's a big class, sometimes you get 2 rows. It is easier to assess the conformation from that position, but you need to make sure that they're spread out, and this is where your ring steward's going to be able to help you, that they're spread out enough to allow you to safely travel between the horses, because you're going to be looking at their conformation from the side, from the front, from the back. Then you may also have them walked and jogged so that you can assess their movement from straight on and straight behind. So again, your ring steward hopefully is going to help you with this, and you will indicate to them, possibly you may choose to stand towards the center of the ring and have the horses walk, and then when you indicate they can jog towards you, you're looking at the straightness of the stride, the straightness of the movement. They will stop. Then you can move around to watch them jog away. And again, you're looking at the hind end, in this case, the movement, the straightness of the stride, as well as the evenness of the gait. So the side-on view you will have seen quite nicely when they're doing the rail work, but this is the straight with the horse coming straight towards you, and then again going straight away from you. It's important to realize that when you're judging Maritime Bred, you can have any breed in there that we have in the Maritimes. There can be ponies, there can be miniatures, there can be warm bloods, quarter horses, paints, Appaloosas, and you are judging them for their breed characteristics, and you need to really keep that in mind when you're looking at this class. Depending on your background as a judge and as a horse person, if you came out of the 4-H training or an area where conformation and judging of conformation was a big thing, this is going to be old hat to you. If it is not something that you have studied, it's important before you get into judging Maritime Bred that you get a really good sense of conformation and what you're looking for in the judging. Very few horses are going to be 100% perfect. So when you are looking at these animals, you have to understand not just what an error in conformation is, but you're going to need to have a good understanding of what is more serious a fault than the other. First thing you're going to do, and this is why it's helpful if you can have the horses lined up nose to tail, because you can really stand back side on and get that overall view of the side on balance. And as we see in this horse here, the most basic thing that you're looking for is this box, and it should be square. We're looking at the top line, the withers, the croup being the same height. So you can see this one here, the withers a little bit higher. If you have a quarter horse in the ring, it's totally acceptable to have the wither slightly lower than the croup without it being excessive. If you have a warm blood, it is possible that they're going to be a little bit higher. So this is where it becomes really important that you understand the variations in the breed and sort of what you're potentially going to see in the ring. But your overall balance is looking at that square, how the horse fits into it, how the neck fits onto the shoulder onto the head, what the head carriage is, what the tail carriage is. Then we'll have a closer look at the structure of the horse, the limbs, the correctness, and this is where you're going to be able to stand in front of the horse and have a look straight down. So here we've got these blue lines, which are referred to as plumb lines, coming down. So here's your ideal position. And that you can drop that straight line right down through the forearm, through the center of the knee, the center of the cannon bone, the pastern, straight down through the center of the hoof, and it runs straight down. So any deviation that you're going to see with the horse, with the animal being toed out, toed in, base wide, base narrow, pigeon-toed, you need to start having an understanding of what is a more serious problem. For example, the toed in versus toed out. Your horse that's toed in may actually have a little bit more expression in their stride because they're moving a little bit more from their elbow. And you will find some of the warm blood breeders actually breed their horses to be slightly toed in versus a horse that's toed out. You can potentially have an animal that interferes with himself because when that toe comes up, it flicks inward and then goes back out again. And, they can actually take the toe and strike the inside of the forelimb, the opposite forelimb. So, it's really, really important to be able to look at these and sort of understand what is more serious and what is more forgivable. You're going to look at the movement, and you will have seen this in the under saddle portion of the class. So it's good if during that time you've had an opportunity to look at the horses, not just from side on as you would if you're in the middle of the ring, but if you can see them coming towards you and going away from you. If the class is too big and you don't have that opportunity to get a good view of the horses, there's nothing wrong with when they're in the in-hand portion of the class to have them jog towards you and walk away just so you can assess that movement, particularly if there's one or two horses in the ring that you are a little unsure of and you want to clarify how they move. As I've said, the breed and the type of horse is going to influence how you're going to look at them. So take, for example, when we're looking at the hind end of the horse, if you see an animal that seems to slightly toe out behind, that has a little bit of a wider stance behind, a lot of the animals that are of Arabian type breeding will have that. And it was to allow that movement of the hind leg to come forward so the stifle's not interfering with the rib cage. So it's important that you sort of have a little bit of a basic understanding of the differences in the breeds and know within your class how you're going to assess their individual conformation. Temperament is not part of conformation, but certainly if you have an animal in the ring that is misbehaving, that is being difficult, that's biting its handler or striking or pawing, that's going to mark the horse down, and it is part of the performance side of it that you're going to see when they are moving under saddle. So keep in mind their temperament when you're judging the class. Obviously, soundness is important, and here you can't be a veterinarian, but you need to be able to look at how they're moving, the balance of their movement, the soundness of their step. But also, if you do the visual inspection when they're being shown to you in hand, and there are indications of unsoundnesses and blemishes that can cause either lamenesses now or lamenesses down the road. So things, be aware of things like bone spavin, ring bone, any indications of, say, bow tendons, things that are very visibly obvious. You need to see those and score them appropriately. We're also looking, when we assess conformation, is we're looking for the longevity of the horse. So a horse that's going to stay sound for a long time. And that's essentially where the whole concept of assessing conformation comes from, is we want to be able to look at a horse and go, okay, this horse is structurally built well, so it's going to move well and it's going to last. Whereas the second horse is possibly not built as structurally correctly and has the potential of becoming unsound down the road. Then you've got to do that difficult job of prioritizing your placings, and really this can be a little subjective depending on what it is that you're looking for, what it is that you like in a horse, but you need to be able to place the class and justify why you are placing horses one over the other. So that's the last division in the Scotia Series classes that we're going to be going through. Next up, we're going to have a quick look at course design.